So in this section we will be building a Tic Tac game. So a Tic Tac game basically have a game board of a 3 by 3 row and column and two players, and whoever first make a linear X or O or diagonal X or O first will be the winner. So let me show you. So we have X, then O, then X, then O, and here we got 3x in diagonal fashion and we have winner. So this is what we are going to build in this section, and we also have a reset button to reset the game anytime if we want to reset the game, and if we have a winner then the game itself reset after the delay of 2 seconds. So let's build this game. So first we need to create a new project. So we will click new project. Then we need to choose the empty compose activity. Then we will hit next. And now we need to give it a name. So we will say Tic Tac. And leave the minimum SDK to Android 7. And we can hit the finish button. Let the project build up. So now the project is ready to code. But before we start coding, let's run the app on the emulator and see if everything is running fine. So we will just click this play button to run the code on the emulator. So the app has launched and you can see that we are getting the message or text greeting Android, which is this function. So we are getting hello Android. So this confirms that our setup is correct and everything is in right direction. So now we can code the Tic Tac application. So first we need to create a Kotlin file. So we will right click here and click new, and here we can select Kotlin class file and we can name it Tic Tac. You can name it whatever you want, and then we need to select file. Let's close the emulator for now. Here we need to create a composable function. So we will say at composable, and we need to name the function. So we will say function, and we can call it Tic Tac. So first we need to create a board for the game on which we will play the Tic Tac game. So let's create a variable for board. So we will say value board, and it's going to be of type array. So we will use remember function to create our board. So we will say remember, and then we will use mutable state of. So we will say mutable state of, and it's an array, so we need to define array. So we will say array. Then we also need to define the size of the array. So it's going to be 3 by 3 array, 3 columns and 3 rows. So we will just say 3, and then we just have to initialize this array with null. So here we can just say array of nulls, and again we have to give it the size. So we will just say 3. Okay, we need to provide the type also. So I just forgot that. So here we need to provide the type. So it's going to be of type string, and there we have our variable for board. Now we will start building our board. So first we need a column. So here we will say column, and we need to specify some modifiers. So we will say modifier equals modifier dot fill max size. So it will take up the entire screen. So that way you don't have to define the screen with a particular number. It will work on all sorts of screen. And after that we need the background color. So we will set the background color. So we will set dot background, and here we can provide the color. So we will say material theme dot colors dot we are going with surface color. You can go with different color if you want. And then we need a little bit of padding. So for padding, we can just add a padding here of 16 dp, and let's import the dp as well. First thing, we will have the name of the game on top of the screen. So for that we need a row. So we will say row, and we will use some modifier. So we will say modifier dot fill max size, sorry, fill max width. So here we will use fill max width, so it will take the entire screen from left to right. So this will also work for any kind of screen. And let's give it some arrangement for horizontal. So we will say horizontal arrangement, and we can set it to center. So center, and now we can put our text inside this row. So we will say text, and we can simply call it Tic Tac game, and let's give it some style. So for style, we can go for, first we need the typography. So we will say material theme dot typography dot h4. So here we have a bunch of options from h1 to h6. So I am going with h4. Again, you can go with any variable you want. And then we need the color for the text. So here we will just say material theme dot colors dot on surface. And now our text for the game is ready. So let's run it and see how it's look on the emulator. So the app has launched, and let's see. Okay, we forget to change the function in the main activity, so that's why it's still showing hello Android. So let's go ahead and change this function or remove this function to our Tic Tac function that we created. So Tic Tac, and let's also get rid of this piece of code, which is a boilerplate code. Now we can run it again, and here we have our name for the game on top of screen, Tic Tac game. So in the next lecture we will start building our board. So to create a board, we will create a composable function box. So it will be like a box, and something like this. I hope I am drawing okay. So, and then in this box we will put 9 buttons inside it in a row column fashion, something like this. Okay, the buttons are not getting too well, but I hope you understanding the concept of the box and the buttons. So this is how we will build our box and buttons. Okay, so let's create our box first. So we can, okay, let's get it out from here. Let's get a little bit more space. So I will just click this project tab. So this is where the row ends. So after this row we will create a box. So let's say box, and let's give it some modifier. So we are going to need padding. So we will say modifier dot padding, and we will have 16 dp of padding, and we will fill the size of the box. So we will say dot fill max size. Inside this box we will create a column. So column, and inside this column we are going to create a for loop. So we will say for row. So this is going to create row. So we will say for row in 0 to 2. So this will run the loop from 0 to 2, which is 3. And then inside this for loop we will create a row of buttons. So we will say row. Now we will create columns for loop, inside for loop. So we will say for, and here we will say column, and here we will say in 0 to 2. This is just an expanding operator, the two dots. So it will create column from 0 to 2. So it will also be 3 count. And now we can create our button. So here we will say button. So let's give it some modifier first before creating our on click function. So here we will say modifier equals modifier dot weight, and we will give it to 1f. So all the boxes will be of same size, and then we need a little bit of padding. So we will say padding of 4 dp. And now here we can define our on click function. So for on click function we will say if board dot value, and then we need to provide the row and column. So we will say row and column, and we will check whether they are null or not. So we will say equals null. So if board value means if all the row and columns are null, which means the game has not started, we will open the curly braces. Now here we need another variable for our player. So we need to create a player. So here we will just go above and create our player. So here we will say value current player, and we will use remember function again. So we will just say remember mutable state of, and we can set an initial value of x, and that's it. So now we will use the current player here. So we will set the current player to, we will say board dot value row and column, and we will set it to current player dot value. So the x will be the first player, so whoever click it first will be the x. And then we can say, then we need to change the current player based on who is playing. So if x play his move, then we need to set the current player to O. So we will say current player dot value, and we need to put some if else condition. So here we will say if current player dot value equals x, then we will set O else x. So here we are basically saying that if the current value, if the current player is x, then after clicking the button it will change to O, and then again if the value is O, then it will revert back to x. So both players get their chance alternately, and then we have to also type the x and O on those button. So we are still in the button function. So here this button function ends. So here we need to provide a text for the button. So here we will say text, and here for text value we will just provide the board value. So we will say board dot value row and column question mark, and we will just set the board value. whoever clicks the button depends on X or O. Now let's give it some style for this text. So we can say here style material theme. It need to start with capital M, otherwise it won't suggest the function. And we can say dot typography dot h5, and then for the color we can set it to white. So we will just say color dot white. So let's run the app and see if we have created our board successfully or not. So you can see that our board is ready. Let's see if we can click it and get some value. So for some reason we are not getting the values, but we have successfully created the board. So in the next lecture we will troubleshoot what went wrong and why the clicks are not applicable and why they are not performing. So I will see you in the next lecture. So let's fix the issue of a button that it's unable to track the current player. So that's why we are not able to print X or O on these buttons. So for that we simply need to track the current player. So we need to create a text after this for loop. So when this for loop ends, we can create a text so we can see who is the current player. So we can set a text here, and for text we can just say current player. Let's make it capital P, and then we can just say dollar and then curly braces. We can set the current player to its value, and let's also give it some style here. So we will say style material theme dot typography. We need the typography first, so we will say, let's go for the bigger one, so we will say h6, and then we need the color for the text. So color, we choose the wrong, we need the color variable function, sorry, and here we can say material theme dot colors dot on surface, and then we can use a modifier to create a gap between the board and the text. So here we will say modifier equals modifier dot padding, and here we just need a gap between the board and the text. So we will use the top and we will say 16 dp. So our text will appear somewhere here. So let's run the app and see if we can track our current player. So now we can see our current player X, and let's click it. So now we are able to generate or type X and O. So we are able to fill all of these buttons. So in the next lecture, we will determine how to predict the winner or how to realize when someone has won. So I will see you in the next lecture. So now we will create a function so that we can determine the winner. So it will be a separate function from this Tic Tac function. So let's create a new function. So we will say function, and we can say check for winner, and it's going to take argument from the board. So we will provide an argument of board. So we will say board, which is a two-dimensional array. So we will say array, and then we will say again array because it's a two-dimensional array. Then we need to provide the typing, so we will say string. Then here we will say colon, string, question mark. So first we will check the winner in all row. So first we need to check the winner row by row. So we will go to each row and check if there are 3x or 3o. So we need to do that for all the 3 rows. So we will do just that. So for that we can say we can run a for loop. So we will say for row in 0 to 2, and then we will run an if else statement. So we will say if. So first we need to check that the first row is not empty. So we will say board, and we will provide the row, and we need to provide the first column also. So we will say 0, and we have to check it for not null. So we will say not null or not null, and then we have to see that all the columns for that particular row are same. So we can say and board row 0 equals board row, and here we need to provide the second column, which is index 1, and then we have to check again that this row of column 1 is equal to same row of column 2. So here we will say board, not boolean, board again row and column 1 equals to board row and column 2. So that way we are checking an entire row for the same type of values, be it x or o, and then we can simply return the board. So we will say return board row, and here we can provide the column, so 0. Now we need to check for all the columns. So we will create another for loop to check the winner if there are winners in the columns. So we will say for columns in 0 to 2, and we have to do the same thing just in a different way. So we can actually copy this if else, and here we will, instead of row, we will set it to 0, and here we will provide column instead of row, and then again here we have to set it to 0, and here column, and here we have to set it to 1, and here column 1 column, and here we can say 2 column. So that way we will able to check the winners if there are winners in column. Now we need to check the winners for diagonally. So if we have winner here, I am not able to draw it properly, guys. So let's try it one more time. So if we have winner in diagonal fashion, then we will have to check it from top left to bottom right, and we will also need to check the winner from top right to bottom left. We will have to check it from both sides. So let's write logic for that. So first we will write the logic for top left to bottom right. So here we will say if, we will have to check it manually, we cannot use for loop here. So we will say if board, and we will have to provide the board cells, particular board cells. So we will start from 0 0. So 0 0, and first we have to check that it's not null, so we will say not null. Then we will have to check it for similar values, so we will say board 0 0 equals board, and here we will provide the middle cell, so we will say 1 1, so it will be the middle cell. And then we can say and board 1 1 is equals to board 2 2, it will be the bottom right. Then we can simply say return 0 0. We have to return the board, not just 0 0. And then we can do the same for top right to bottom left. So here we will say if board 0 2 is not equal to null, and board 0 2 equals board 1 1, and board 1 1 equals to board 2 0, and then we will simply return the board. So we will say return board, and here we will say 0 2, and if we don't have any winner at all, then we can simply return null. So in the next lecture we will use this function in our this for loop to determine the winner. So I will see you in the next lecture. So in this lecture we will determine how to determine the winner. So let's create a variable for winner. So we will here create a value for winner, and it's going to be a remember function again. So we will say mutable is state of, and it's going to be of type string and question mark also. And then we can initialize with null because in the beginning we don't have any winner. So here we will put another condition in this if statement. So here we can say and winner dot value is not null, so we can make sure that there are no winners. And then we just have to use this function check for winner here. So here we can just say winner dot value equals, we can use the function check for winner, and then we just need to provide the value for board. So we will say board dot value, and it should be able to check the winner, but we are having some issue with type mismatch. So it's a required array string and found array string, so there is a difference of question mark. So here we forget to put the question mark in this string, so that's why we are having this issue. So we will just do that and it should be resolved. So yeah, it's resolved. Let's also create a text so we can display the winner. So after this text we can say, here we will say if winner is not equal to null, then we will display a text. We cannot put the text here because we are running in a for loop and the text is a composable component, so we cannot put a composable component inside a for loop. So here we will say text, and we will just say current player, not current player, we need the winner here, so we will say winner colon, and then we will say dollar, and we just need to provide the value of winner. So we will say winner dot value, and let's also style it. So style material theme, dot typography dot h6. Let's give it a color also. So for color we can say material theme dot colors dot on surface, and then let's give it a modifier for padding. So we will say modifier dot padding, and we can say 4 dp of padding. So let's run the app and see if check for winner is working properly. So for now we have null because we don't have any winner. So let's try to win this game. So I'm just going to deliberately win the game, and as soon we have the diagonal matching string, we are winning. So we have winner X. So guys, in the next lecture we will create a function to reset all these board values when we have a winner, because we don't have any functionality yet to reset the board. So we will do that in the next lecture. So to reset values, we need two more variables, new variables for initial board value and initial player. So let's create two more variables. So here we will say value initial board, and we can set it to array. So array of 3, and then we can say arrays of null of 3, and let's provide the type string, and we also need a value for initial player. So we can say value initial player, and we can set it to x. So these are the two new variables that we need, and now we need to just create a button, and we will just, so after this text we can create a button here to reset the values. So here we will just say button, and we have to just define this on click function. So we will just say, just get rid of to do. We can say on click board dot value equals initial board value, and we also have to reset the player. So we can say current player dot value, and we can set it to initial player, and we also have to reset the value of the winner. So we can say winner dot value equals null, and it's already happening here as I was writing the code. It's looking good. Let's run the app and see if it's working. It should work because it just worked even without running the app. Okay, I did not put any text for this button, so that's why we don't have any text in it. So I'm just going to put a text here very quickly. So I will say text reset. Let's give some style also. So style material theme dot colors dot, let's give it typography first. So typography dot h5, and let's give it a color material theme dot colors dot white. Okay, here we need just the colors. So color dot white, and let's give it some padding. So for that we need to use modifier dot padding. Let's give it a 16 dp padding, and we should be good. So let's why it's the button is too big, actually too much padding I guess. So let's go for 4. Yeah, and that looks better. So let's type something and let's see if reset works. So it's working quite nicely. We are not going to get any winner here. Oh, we got a winner. So after getting winner, we can reset it. So all is working quite nice, and we just need another function where it will reset itself after a winner is declared. So in the next lecture, we will do that. So it can automatically reset when we have a winner. So I will see you in the next lecture. Okay, so to reset the winner automatically or the board automatically, we need to do little bit of changes in this code of block. So first we can copy these values and we can put inside this if block, and here instead of winner we will have to check for winner dot value, otherwise it will throw a lot of errors. So let's run it and let's go for a winner. I messed it. No, I have not messed it yet. So let's go for a winner and it reset it. You see that, but the problem is that it reset it immediately after we have a winner. So we need to delay this process a little bit. So for that we can use side effects, I think it's called. So we can use a launch effect, which is a side effect. So we can cut this entire piece of code and put inside launch effect. So we can say launch effect, and we can remove this block and key, and we just need to set it to true, and inside this block we can paste it, and we need to just provide a delay value. So we can say delay, and it needs the time in millisecond. So we will just need 2 seconds, so that will be 2000 milliseconds. So let's run it and hopefully it will reset automatically after 2-second delay. So let's go for a winner again. I'm just quickly going for winner, and boom, after 2 seconds it reset itself.